president, the president of the Association of Forensic Professionals of Nigeria, AFPON, principal officers of AFPON, invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great joy to be here, and most importantly, it gives me great delight to stand here before you to represent the EFCC Executive Chairman, Mr. Abdulrasheed Bawa, who has given me his blessings to present a paper in honor of his invitation by this noble association to speak on the topic facilitating economic and financial crimes investigation through forensic science. Crime is as old as civilization, just as science is as old as man's civilization. The detection of fraud through the use of scientific principles and techniques can be buttressed through a historical perspective. It dates back to the examination of dead bodies by the Roman and Egyptian physicians between 44 to 3000 BC, to the resolution of cases of forgery to acquit the innocent in the wake of the 1st century AD. The 13th to early 19th century witnessed the development and foundation of pathology, toxicology, and fingerprint classification / identification. The late 19th century introduced the publication of a German professor of law and criminology, Hans Gross, on criminal investigation, where he continually stressed of the help science can render to detectives in the detection of crime. His publication fascinated and provided the basis for the works of Edmond Locard, who postulated the exchange principle in the early 20th century, which formed the bedrock of modern forensic science today. As a result of advances in science and technology, many aspects of science, such as forensic DNA, cybersecurity, digital forensics, and others have emerged and becoming sophisticated to match the evolving phase and new trends of crime. No doubt forensics has a rich history, but why do we have to go back to history? It is simply because if you know your history, it will guide you into the future. I was so happy when CP, in his introductory part, he went briefly into the history of forensics. So it shows how important history, what the role history plays in any field of endeavor. Because if you don't know your history, then it means you don't know what you're doing. Economic and Financial Crimes Investigation Strategy. The EFCC Establishment Act 2004 Act, as clearly stated in Section 6 and 46, it is the law that empowers the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission as a law enforcement entity to prevent, investigate, and prosecute economic and financial crimes, as well as recovery of proceeds of crimes. Section 7 also vested on the EFCC the responsibility of coordinating and enforcing all economic and financial crime laws and enforcement functions conferred on any other person or authority, thus making the Commission the coordinating body for all economic and financial crimes investigation units in Nigeria. I think this is why I'm speaking on this. The EC has decided to speak on this topic because the EFCC, by law, is the coordinating agency for all economic and financial crimes investigation. Section 12 of the Act empowers the Commission to establish special units, departments, committees for the effective conduct of its functions. Thus, the Commission has been able to, over the years, create and strengthen various units and departments that would facilitate the smooth running of its core operational activities. Furthermore, the recent development and implementation of the EFCC Strategic Plan 2021 to 2025, standard operating procedures, various policies and manuals by the current administration of the EFCC in order to enhance efficiency and professionalism, to improve enforcement coordination and intelligence-driven investigation in line with its mission and vision, shows the effort put by the EFCC in standardizing its processes. In view of the foregoing, the EFCC recognized the need for a scientific approach to its investigations early enough from its time of establishment, and has been able to build capacity in forensics from what used to be a two-man unit into a full-fledged department. Currently, the forensics department of the EFCC has capabilities in 4 main laboratory sections: forensics documents examination, digital forensics laboratory, fingerprint identification and crime scene management, and lastly, forensic audio, video, and image analysis sections. The activities of these various sections are supported by the forensic administration and quality control assurance sections. The current administration of the Commission also recognized the need to expand and strengthen forensics capacity and capabilities of the Commission, and therefore initiated the establishment of its own forensic chemistry laboratory. This was partly due to the increase in number of illegal oil bunkering cases and the long time, turnaround time and cost of outsourcing analysis to external laboratories. Today, the project is at its advanced stage. In addition, the capacity of the digital forensic laboratory and fingerprint and crime scene management sections have recently been extended across the 15 zonal commands of the EFCC, with the deployment of digital forensic laboratory analytical tools and automated fingerprint storage and identification systems in line with Section 15 of the ACJA, as Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which mandates every arresting law enforcement agency to record information and process all arrested persons. What are the impacts of forensics? The impacts of forensics on the investigation of economic and financial crimes. With the dynamic nature of science and the rapid advancement in global societies, one can hardly conduct any business transaction without the use of technology. Banking transactions are now digitized and fully automated with numerous electronic banking solutions and applications. Our ancestral box televisions have become computers and servers today. Our cars are highly computerized. Our phones have become mobile offices. A greater percentage of shoppers are online than in physical stores. Newer technologies such as the blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, artificial intelligence, emergence of 5G, Internet of Things are changing the dimension of cyberspace usage and thereby introducing new trends of cybercrimes. Cryptocurrencies are becoming the new world money without proper or adequate transnational regulations. making tracing of process of crime a little more hard. Counterfeiting is on the increase and becoming more sophisticated than it used to be. In all of this, it is expected that advancements in forensic science and the application of its technologies, principles, and procedures would help in bridging the gap between crime and its detection. The impact of forensics on the investigation of economic and financial crimes can be linked to the rate of success in the prosecution of the said crimes. Going by the EFCC conviction rates in the year 2020 and 2021 post-COVID, it is evident to note that forensics has played a vital role, especially with the nature of economic and financial crimes, which will either leave a paper trail or digital imprint. In the year 2020, the Commission secured 976 convictions, while in the year 2021, the Commission secured 2,201 convictions. At least we could see this difference due to the COVID-19, the pandemic period, where there was lockdown. So that slowed activities generally. In the year 2020, the FDE, that's the Forensic Document Examination Section, received a total of 73 cases and concluded a total of 72. The DFL, Digital Forensic Laboratory, received 334 cases and concluded 262. The Fingerprint and Crime Scene Management Section and FAVIA, that's Forensic Audio, Video, and Image Analysis Sections, processed 3,882 suspects for fingerprints and mugshots in the year 2020. Some of the notable convictions which the EFCC forensics experts played vital roles include the case of former governor of Plateau State, Joshua Dabi, where his handwriting was linked to an account where public funds were diverted to. Another, which is recent, is the case of counterfeiting of Maltese passport, in which the defendants were sentenced to 17 years imprisonment. Furthermore, forensic investigation on the counterfeiting methods employed in the Maltese passport led to an intelligence-driven investigation, which resulted in the arrest of the syndicate, who are currently being prosecuted. The use of digital forensic tools have also facilitated the recovery of probative digital evidence in many cybercrime and computer-related frauds, which led to the conviction of many cybercriminals and related offenses. Also, digital forensics evidence helped in the successful prosecution and conviction of one Aisha Alkali Wakil, popularly known as Mama Boko Haram. I'm sure we're aware of that case. Challenges of forensic science investigations in Nigeria. Issues with preservation of evidence, integrity through contamination or unintentional damage to evidence by the public as a result of lack of awareness on crime, scene of crime preservation. We know here in our nation that we lack that education on crime scene management. Once a crime happens, you see people rush to the crime scene unguided, because generally there's that awareness is not there. And secondly, law enforcement too, there's a need for this awareness to permeate the law enforcement cycle, so that as first responders, they are supposed to be there as soon as a crime is reported before any other person. But sometimes it's difficult. I remember late boss, that's the first head of forensics. He was assassinated in his home, and before the police could arrive there. They had washed everywhere. They had cleaned up the house. And before the forensic experts could go there, the evidence had already been damaged. Innovation in science and technology give rise to new trends of crimes as the criminal mind assiduously look for ways to take advantage of every emerging technology to circumvent existing laws, policies, or procedures. So I know that here we have that challenge that we're not able to develop our own technology. So most times we rely on technology from outside, that is technology that is developed by some other people outside this country, and we don't really know how to utilize that technology in terms of forensics. So there's a need for us to deliberately begin to research in the area of forensic technology so that we can keep ahead. We can always be ahead of the criminals. Forensic equipment and trainings are very expensive and not locally available. There's no any manufacturer in fact in Africa that produces forensic equipment. And that is a big challenge. They are quite expensive. You would see an equipment very small but very, very expensive. When you talk about digital forensics, the softwares are quite expensive. So it's something that is a bit of a challenge, funding forensic investigation. Lack of training institutions and policies on forensics. We don't have training institutions in Nigeria. Yeah, we have a few universities that are coming up with courses on forensics, but most times it's just theoretical. The practical aspect is not there. So even if you have acquired a degree or some knowledge in forensics through academic institution, there's need for you to become an expert, to undergo mentorship or apprenticeship at an accredited laboratory. But we know that we lack forensic laboratories in the country. So there's that need for us to push for that. Then also, lack of policies on the administration of forensic science in Nigeria, which will provide a guide for establishment of forensic laboratories, institutions, and regulatory bodies. This has led to paucity of forensic experts and may encourage proliferation of quacks. The crime scene investigation effect seen on movies, Hollywood CSI movies, usually glamorized and exaggerate the work of forensic scientists in terms of scope, infallibility, turnaround time, thereby raising the real-world expectations of forensic science by victims, clients, judiciary, and even the criminals. So most times, the expectation on the forensic experts is usually high. You know, the public expect that once a crime is committed and the forensic experts are there, that they should perform magic to get results. It's not always the case. Forensics investigation is painstaking. It requires time. It requires a lot of knowledge in the field. And it requires funding. Sometimes the evidence may not be there because evidence has been destroyed. And there's no magic that the forensic expert can do in that situation. And we have just a few reputable forensic laboratories in the country which cannot meet the demand of the increasing population and increased rates of crime. The EFCC Forensics Department does not only service the EFCC, but also other law enforcement agencies, security agencies, and MDAs. Conclusion. Crime cuts across all aspects of human endeavors, including medicine, health, environment, engineering, economic and sociological strata. And it is becoming more sophisticated with the advancements in science and technology. However, the same technologies are evolving and providing scientific ways of preventing and detecting such crimes. The era of relying solely on confessional statements to prove cases or the use of coercion to elicit evidence from suspects has passed. Now is the era of intelligence-driven investigation and scientific-based evidence. Forensics has proved to be a veritable tool in the effective investigation and prosecution of economic and financial crimes. However, there is need to conscientize the public on the importance of forensics and crime scene management. This can be achieved in similar fora like this and in collaboration with relevant government agencies. While I wish you a fruitful deliberation, I enjoin all participants here and those following online to work together towards strengthening the field of forensic science in Nigeria in line with the theme of this program, forensics and national development. Only a secure nation can witness meaningful development. Thank you.
Probably the last two lectures, they were well presented, and I appreciate the presenters. First of all, the last lecture about how to expand the knowledge of forensics in our institutions. You know, there are always bottlenecks in starting courses in the university system. It has to go through NUC, resource verification, and all of that. But I'm afraid that even if you introduce them in universities, it will be at theoretical level, because the equipment for forensics are really expensive. I know the drilling resources in our universities. So is there a possibility that if universities establish such, there will be collaboration with EFCC to help with laboratory equipment, or establish laboratories zonally so that universities that are close to those laboratories can use them for training? Thank you very much.
I am Lieutenant Commander Abubakar Sadiq Adamu, also from the Nigerian Navy. Mine is also not a question, but in form of a comment and also a contribution. With regards to the first lecture, linked with the second lecture, linked with the comment from the last the last speaker. With regards to the establishment of this forensic laboratory, I think we cannot work in isolation. And I'm happy that we have such kind of forums. It is hoped that this kind of forum can facilitate, the establishment of such laboratory through one. As a nation, I think we are moving moving in the right direction by the establishment of this NIMSI, National Identity Management Commission. I think they are doing an excellent work so far with the establishment of NIN. But looking at the first lecture we did that captured issues of facial forensics, Irish forensics, facial forensics, fingerprint and biometrics. Now, I'm thinking it will be like a duplication of effort, because having introduced the NIN rather by NIMSI, they captured that of the fingerprint and the facial recognition. So I am thinking that if this association, can make recommendations to the NIMSI to upgrade factors they key into their biometrics, so that by the time this forensic by the time this forensic laboratory is established, we do not have to start going back to make, Irish and facial captions again. Those data will already be available with the NIMC. So this is just my observation on this. Thank you.
I'm DSP Sunday from Nigerian Police, data analyst, forensic section. I just want to add to what my other colleague had just said. I believe there is nothing like duplication of data. The only thing that could be of assistance, if we are to do this, there's something we call harmonization. This will come in if we can inculcate all this together. When we have the fingerprint data, we have facial recognition data, all this can be put together in the same database. By the time we harmonize from EFCC, police having their own data, NIN having their own data, road safety having their own data, we can harmonize all together in one single database. Thank you.
My name is Folakemi Saleh Ahmed. In addition to what has just been said, I believe that we're very particular about biometrics, and we haven't talked yet about pathology. I'm not a medical practitioner, I'm a lawyer. But my take is genetics and DNA is lifelong and is part of the things we need to identify each and every one of us. So if it is possible to also have a means of collecting DNA, maybe at birth, that should also be considered.